I have one female gaming friend. I have one. Oh my gosh, I just realized that. I have one.
So I don't have any female gamer friends. I never really thought of myself as a female gamer until recently. So there was a time a couple of years ago where I played Overwatch really competitively. I played in competitive matches all the time. It was the kind of thing where people would request to have me on their team. But over time, I got kind of over it. And it wasn't that I didn't love the game anymore, because even as I'm sitting here revisiting this game, I'm reminded that I do actually love it a lot. But every game, I would get on the mic, they would realize I was a woman, and then there had to be some comments about it. And I was over it, and it ruined the game for me, essentially, so I quit playing, despite my love for the game and the enjoyment that I got out of it, and the fact that I was fairly decent. All right, so I'm looking at the Girl Gamers Reddit. It's women who go online and talk about the experiences of a female gamer, what it's like to be a girl when gaming. Here's a question. How do you deal with threats of gender-based violence while gaming? As a girl who uses comms, I get inappropriate call-outs pretty frequently. I've had plenty of people tell me I'm bad or ask me to switch out of a role in a way that I thought was gender-based. Last night I was playing with one of my with one of my friends who is new to the scene. They told me they didn't want to play Overwatch because they had heard how terrible the toxicity was and they didn't want to deal with it. Literally, as soon as I used my mic, these dudes were screaming in the mic for me to get out. When I did not leave, one of them told me they would find where I lived using my IP address and cut me up and feed me to an incel, and told me they'd find my parents and torture them to death and eat their bodies. They also screamed that I should send them my gamer girl P, called me a fat whore, and then threw in a bunch of homophobic and racist comments. My experience is nothing out of the ordinary. This is just the typical experience for a female gamer. So that's nice. The other thing that you see sometimes when people are talking about women playing online, is that there's some men who, instead of being rude or hostile, become super aggressive about being friends, about getting you to talk to them, about messaging you, asking you how your day is. It's super weird.
So there was this one specific instance where a member of a gaming group that I was in messaged me, and it was kind of uncomfortable. So this is how the story goes. In my gaming group, I messaged in the general chat a while ago, February 26th. It says that, we just talk about what we're doing for the day, and I said that I'm doing headshots for my sorority to put on our board, and then all of a sudden I get this private message. So I was very cautious, and then the fact that he was, especially this chunk right here, he messaged me and he even asked, does it bother that I talk to you? And I don't answer. That's obviously bothering me. Yet he still continues to message me for this span from February all the way down to May. So this is just a specific example of me being uncomfortable.
I think that there's some dated stigmas associated with femininity in gaming. There's definitely branding things that happen with that. Games are pretty much designed with men in mind, though that has been changing somewhat in recent years. But I definitely still think that that's the environment that's curated for most games.
Men tend to be really, really overly represented in video games. Women are rare, particularly in protagonist roles. It's not to say they don't exist, they do, but they're not as common, particularly when you start getting into women of color. When you do see women, they're either white or some kind of non-human race or ethnicity or something like that. So I think part of it is that people do like to play games just like they like to watch movies that feature people that look like them. That's just kind of an evolutionary thing. So women don't see those characters as often.
So part of the reason that I really liked Overwatch is that there were so many women in it. And there's such a variety of women, right? So you get super feminine ladies like Mercy and like Widowmaker, who are these beautiful, super feminine women out there kicking ass. And then you get women like Bridget or like Zarya, who are more masculine and are not adhering to gender norms. So you see such a variety of women represented. In addition, you get Diva, who is this character. She's essentially like a gamer girl within the game, right? So without getting into her backstory, essentially she's a famous video game player that was tapped for her technical skills to be on this team.
So you want to have realistic representation. You want to have flawed characters. You don't want them to be like a Mary Sue that could just do anything that's boring. But also, again, damaging, particularly in post-game attitudes towards women. You don't want that. So you see like a hypersexualization and hypercompetence, also incompetence, like they need a person to save them, a man to save them, like a damsel in distress kind of thing. So you see those kinds of themes. The biggest thing that is important in representation is that the representations are accurate, that they present the group as heterogeneous, that they're not all the same type of person. Because ultimately stereotyping is just about painting a group as all the same. So if you're able to paint them as all unique, then you can reduce stereotyping. I mean, I would say that the demand has probably always been there, but developers have not done it. Part of the reason is that developers are afraid of change, I think, particularly AAA developers who are like the big kind of almost blockbuster type games. They're afraid to do things that are risky because they put a lot of money into the game and they don't want to lose money. I think when you start to see mainstream successes with female characters, with characters of color, then you will start to see a shift because people will see, okay, it's not that risky. So it's not that big of a risk. And you see this a little bit in movies where we had movies like Get Out and Black Panther that were very, very successful featuring protagonists of color. And now in video games, I mean, the Tomb Raider series is hugely, hugely successful. Metroid, which features a female protagonist, is successful. So those sorts of characters have been there. They have always been there, but they're not the mainstream yet. So it will take some more success with featuring those types of characters before everybody will get on board, I think. I mean, I think the biggest way to vote in favor of that shift is to buy games that feature those characters because that is what people care about. That's what developers care about. They, you know, critical success is great, but it's pretty meaningless if nobody buys the game.
Hopefully if we correct the problem in this the gaming community, it'll branch out into the rest of society. It's all connected, you know. The gaming community isn't just this vacuum that there are people that only game and that's it. You know, the rest of us have lives. We interact with other people. If we can start something here, that will definitely branch out to other fields, other spheres of society. It's up to us.
Say hello to the camera, Banjo. He's a Scribble. He's a little video game boy.